and I felt nothing at all because I was in a moving car.
So I can add to that. I was in South Pasadena, and yes, so very close to the epicenter, and we felt a pretty sharp series of jolts here. I even had a small item just sort of tip itself off over upstairs, and so I think that's the first time we've ever had, anything other than kind of rattling in the in this location. So.
I was on the Caltech campus. It was pretty strongly felt on campus in the dining commons. It's a pretty good jolt. Nothing was knocked over, but I think almost everybody felt it.
Yeah, me too. I'm here in my office at Caltech, and it was a nice jolt. I was eating a salad and had to set it down and get under my desk. It was a really good jolt. I was in the Mexico City earthquake in 2017, and I'll say the biggest difference was the duration. The duration of that was just a lot longer, and then the whole building shook, and so it was a very noticeable difference immediately that this one just ended much quicker.
People are asking us about reports of damage or injuries. Remember that those don't come to the seismologists; those go through emergency management and police departments. I have seen a report, I can't validate it, that there's somebody trapped in an elevator at Pasadena City Hall. But I don't know if that's true or not.
So we get the did you feel it reports coming in from people who experienced the shaking, and then quite a few people felt that. We have over 15,000. I don't know if this was covered before I was able to jump on. If people felt it, we do encourage them to go to the website and tell us what they felt. That helps us put together a map. I'm not seeing reports of shaking at a damaging level. It was just right at that cusp from what's come in so far.
Thank you. And we have quite a few attendees right now, so maybe someone could provide another overview of the earthquake, what time it was, where it was, the magnitude. Anyone who wants to take that, go ahead.
Sounds like a question for Alan.
I was going to suggest, actually, I can do the Spanish one and give the English one to someone else, but I can do both of that too.
Elizabeth, you can pick it up. I personally haven't had a chance to look at all the data yet.
Sure. So at about 12:20 this afternoon, we had a magnitude 4.4 earthquake located just south of Highland Park, California, in an area of Highland Park, South Pasadena, just south of Pasadena. And the earthquake was located at about 8 miles deep. We, as was just covered, we have a large number of felt reports up to intensity 5. That's sort of just around the level at which we might expect slight damage to perhaps begin to occur. Folks locally to the epicenter felt a series of sharp jolts. This was widely felt across the Los Angeles basin, and it was preceded by 2 earthquakes in the last day of magnitude 1.7 and 1.3.
The initial magnitude that went out was 4.7, and not uncommonly, that was downgraded to a 4.4. And there's also, it's right on the border of Highland Park in South Pasadena. So the first location that went out was South Pasadena, but it's been updated to Highland Park, which is it's a community within Los Angeles.
All right, it looks like we have another question in the Q&A. Using your spare. I'm sorry, go ahead, Alan.
Did you want me to repeat that in Spanish first?
Oh yeah, you know what, go ahead, and we'll come back to this question.
Okay. Ese es para repetir.
All right, as we listen in to experts there at Caltech, let's go to Bob DeCastro, who is live at the scene in South Pasadena. I know you felt it, Bob. Tell us what you felt, where you are specifically, and what's going on around you.
Hey there, can you hear me? I'm not sure. It's kind of low.
Yes.
Oh,
go ahead, Bob.
Okay, Sandra. Yeah, I was just, it's interesting because it was very strong, and I was in Pasadena. I just so happened to be here in Pasadena on an errand, and I was inside a showroom, in an auto showroom, getting a car repair of all things, and the entire place shook pretty violently, not once but twice. So it felt like two pretty large jolts, and everybody just kind of looked at each other. And it's kind of procedure and protocol for the place when you have an emergency, any kind of emergency, that everybody goes outside. So they just instructed everybody to walk outside and out from underneath any awnings or overhangs, and we stood there and we waited for everything to calm down. But it was pretty quick, I will say, but two pretty large jolts. And talking to several people who have worked there in the Pasadena area for quite some time, they all were saying that they haven't felt anything this strong in a very long period of time. So it's one of those things when you think about it happening, and immediately, we're in the news, and I think drop cover and hold on. I kind of failed in that respect, didn't do any of that, but I kind of looked around, and everybody was just kind of stunned, and we all just followed each other outside, and no damage, and at this point, we really didn't feel any aftershocks, but it was pretty strong.
Right, kind of looking at each other like, when is this going to end? Is it going to get stronger? What should we do, right? It's that moment of not sure how to react at this point. We definitely felt it here in West LA in our newsroom. It kind of threw us off guard a little bit in terms of some of our systems, actually, Bobby. But yeah, we're kind of all looking at each other like, is this going to get worse? Should we activate what we should do in terms of getting down or ride it out? And some of the alarm systems were going off on people's phones, but other people didn't get the early activation warnings as well either. So it's interesting. Did you guys kind of get a sense on your phones that an earthquake was going to happen?
I got no alerts at all whatsoever, and I was actually, like everyone else, kind of staring at my phone at the time when it was happening. But it wasn't long and sustained. That was just it. So it jolted twice, and almost felt like something had hit the building twice, and but everybody knew what it was, and immediately the manager on site said, everybody go outside, and we kind of just followed each other. But yeah, it was I haven't felt one like that either in a long time, and it was pretty strong.
Right, and it's quite surprising, Bob, because even though it felt so strong to us, and it lasted for a good amount of time in terms of, relatively speaking, with other earthquakes we felt recently, but the fact is, when they came out with a 4.4 magnitude, I thought it would register much higher.
Yeah, maybe because we were closer to the epicenter, that we sort of felt that it was much larger, but it did feel pretty powerful. And again, most of the people around me said they hadn't felt anything like that for a long time. But you can imagine if it was this strong and there was sustained shaking and it was going on for a long period of time, that could likely cause a lot more damage, or damage in and of itself. But the fact that it was two quick jolts, I think, we sort of were spared any major damage, and nothing really fell or anything, and people were just surprised. And then, just talking to other people, what was interesting is that it does start making you think, when we do have the big one, are we prepared? Do we know exactly what we're going to do? Are we going to spring into action and do all the things that we need to do? And do we have all the necessary supplies that we need to have in case something should happen and we're in a mass casualty or disaster type of a situation?
That's right, and we were listening to Dr. Lucy Jones and the experts at Caltech talking about this. Obviously, this comes on the heels of just August 6th. Earlier this month, feeling a 5.2 magnitude earthquake just east of Bakersfield, and again, a higher magnitude there, but as they mentioned, it was in a less populated area, and that's why we didn't feel it as strongly, and that's why there weren't as many reports of people feeling it as well. And as we talk, Bobby, we're taking a live look at some aerial pictures from Skyfox. We are looking at Pasadena City Hall right here, and we are seeing a large water leak. We're seeing water gushing onto the gutters of the building, of the facility, also leaking onto the sidewalk area. Presumably, this was because of the earthquake, perhaps impacting the old structure right there. Lucy Jones also saying that they were hearing a possible call of a person trapped in an elevator inside Pasadena City Hall. Unconfirmed at this point, but again, new reports just coming in terms of the impact of this quake. I know here at the Fox studio, we did feel a significant shake. The lights were shaking, and possibly some of our systems got offline for just a couple of minutes, but we're certainly back up and running right now. But it's interesting to see and hear as these reports come in how much this has impacted our area, even just a 4.4. We're learning from Metro as well, Bobby, that they are going to slow down the trains, the mass transit lines, just to check, just in case if there is any damage, and to make sure that the lines are running properly. So that is the situation right now. And again, we're looking at these live aerial pictures from Skyfox at Pasadena City Hall, where emergency response crews are making sure that things are intact, taking care of this water break, this water leakage that we're seeing right here. And there you see first responders, firefighter crews responding to the scene right there at Pasadena City Hall. What is the scene around you right now, Bobby? Are there people out and about kind of talking about this and wondering if there's going to be aftershocks?
I think they just kind of went about their business, to be honest, because there were no aftershocks, and everybody was surprised. And after everything subsided, they thought it was okay and safe to go back inside. I do want to point out what's interesting about that leak that you're looking at right now. And you think about the infrastructure of Southern California, the water infrastructure that we have there. It's very old, and we see water main breaks and things happen all the time because it's just simply old and things break. And so I remember one of the conversations that we had with Lucy Jones a while back, and her talking about what is the best way for us to be prepared for an earthquake. And the one thing that she said was that we need water. She said water, 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 water. She did it like 10 times, I remember. And she says, if you think you have enough water, get more water, because you need to be able to sustain yourself. If we lose water for a long period of time, for a couple of days, do you have enough water for everybody in your house to survive a long period of time? There's a chance that if we have a big earthquake, that it would disrupt the water system significantly in our area. The water mains could break. There could be a mixing of our sewer system and our water system, and so that would be take a long time to fix and replace. And then what you need the water for is the water to sustain yourself until FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, could actually come in and supply water to everybody until things could be fixed. So until then, she said it was incumbent on all of us to make sure that we had enough water in our homes to sustain ourselves for a long period of time until you could get more water, emergency crews can get to you. And because of that, I remember having that conversation. I have, and I continue whenever I go to the grocery store, I make sure that I replenish the water that I may have used so that we have enough water to sustain ourselves for a long period of time. So that is definitely one of the things you have to really think about when it comes to situations like this. You see how a small earthquake or an earthquake of this size could damage a part of our water infrastructure. Think of if we had a major earthquake, how that could actually debilitate our infrastructure and really cause a lot of problems, a big crisis in terms of the water supply for Southern California. Really big potential possibility there.
That's certainly a big point. Obviously, experts always emphasizing the fact, and first responders as well, to have that go bag ready, have all your necessary emergency supplies stocked in your house, somewhere where you can grab your belongings, the things you'll need to sustain yourself and your family, your pets, for a duration of time, so that in case an emergency happens, that you are ready and prepared to wait it out in terms of the length it would take before things get back up and running. So that's a good point. Make sure you stock up on water as well. Let's go to Justin O'Brien now, live in Skyfox. He's providing these aerial views of Pasadena City Hall and this water leak we're seeing up here. Justin?
Yes, good afternoon, Sandra. I understand that I apologize, I'm hearing myself back. I understand that the water main broke inside the building. I estimate it must have broke somewhere on the second or third floor because firefighters have been working in this area here. We did see a large amount of water coming out a pipe here, and you can see the residue left there, and it almost was like a big little waterfall running down here onto the steps. As Pasadena firefighters have responded here to assist the city in fixing this, or at least clearing the water before a plumber can get in there and repair that pipe. At the moment, we've seen several what appear to be workers who have evacuated out of the building, and they're seeking refuge here under the shade of these trees. Now, when we were approaching, we did see several other buildings, the one behind the City Hall, and there were a lot of people there as well. I think just for precaution, just standing outside of the buildings until a thorough investigation of the interior could be completed. But at the moment, it looks like a water main here has somehow come detached from the side of the wall and broken, and it's caused, no doubt, a little bit of damage. But at this stage, Sandra, I believe they've stopped the water flow. Back to you. And Sandra, you see here, you can see there's some workers here who are setting up a type of a barrier to prevent anybody from entering. Of course, the City Hall here is a beautiful building. I've been here several times actually for photos, for weddings. There's a beautiful area in the center, so it's very open to the public, and I believe they're going to try and it's probably shut down for the rest of the day here while the repairs are made to what appears to be some type of water main that's broken, possibly a fire main that obviously carries a large amount of water. That's the fire sprinkler system I'm referring to. But at this stage, we don't hear of unsure of any reports of any injuries. Definitely damage has occurred somewhere there on the second to third floor. If we might ask Mike, the pilot, Mike, if you don't mind going around to the east a little bit so we can have a better look at that balcony. Workers were working on the balcony when we first arrived, and they seemed to be almost acting or cleaning a vent, and then all of a sudden that vent opened up, and again, like I said, we had a large waterfall flowing here over the edge and down onto the foyer entrance of the City Hall.
Yeah, we could see the dramatic video and the images that you're showing of all the water on the sidewalk right there pouring outside of Pasadena City Hall. Justin and Mike in Skyfox, and Dr. Lucy Jones saying that, you know what, if there are water leaks and water pipes breaking now, this is not a good sign, because if the big one hits, and when it does, we're in bad shape in terms of infrastructure and the ability to sustain our infrastructure. So clearly, if this is a 4.4 causing this right now, she says this is not a good sign. So something that certainly they're going to be looking into, and they're going to have to reinforce and deal with before perhaps a bigger earthquake hits this area. But clearly this was felt in a wide swath of the Southland, not only South Pasadena, LA, but parts of Orange County, Riverside County. Viewers calling in saying they felt it as well. Again, just this 4.4 magnitude at 12:20 hitting right by Highland Park this afternoon. But Justin, as you were mentioning, that they are closing down Pasadena City Hall right now as they look at the damage and what is going on there. What is the atmosphere in terms of workers? Are they out of the building? How are they milling about? Are people going home in their cars? Is there a scene outside that area?
At the moment, Sandra, it appears that people may actually still have returned to work. We do have several people who are standing out here on the sidewalk, unclear whether they're just visitors to the area or workers. We have media gathering here and a spokesperson for the Pasadena Fire Department you see there in the center of screen. There were some workers that I believe were under the trees there, but they seem to have dispersed, gone back inside. But if I tilt back up, you can actually see what appear to be maintenance workers or people inside the City Hall here doing a evaluation of what may have occurred or what may have broken. So it's no doubt, as you said, we're very vulnerable to earthquakes in California, especially Los Angeles with our high buildings. So no doubt every maintenance department will be going around looking at every pipe now to see whether any pipes are vulnerable. I remember back in '94, I was in a 15-story building. Wow. We had to climb up after the earthquake, and there were a lot of pipes in the stairwells that had come loose. So I imagine a building of this age would have to no doubt had upgrades over the years, so there'll probably be a full re-evaluation of all the pipes, which is not a bad thing in an area that we live in, Sandra.
Right, that's right. And listening to the officials at Caltech, they were saying there perhaps could have been or might be somebody trapped in the elevator inside City Hall right there in Pasadena. I know you listened to the emergency response systems up there in Skyfox. Have you heard any chatter about that? If there is somebody, in fact, stuck in an elevator there?
No, I've heard nothing. I had heard that report, but I've heard no reports that there was somebody in there or that had gotten out. A ladder truck. There were two ladder trucks when we first arrived here from Pasadena Fire, and that first truck has left, and you see the second truck is leaving. And I think we would know that if somebody was still trapped, the firefighters would not be leaving. So if there was a person, I would assume they're out now, and no doubt having a cup of coffee or a cup of tea just to say that was quite an experience to go through. But if I tilt over to here, pan over to here, you can see the entrance here is blocked off, which I'm unsure what that takes you to, but obviously that's telling people, hey, City Hall is probably going to be closed for the rest of today. And again, this area here, I'm unclear whether, I don't think the broken water main was there. I think the water main was up higher. If you look in there, you can see the interior appears to be dry, but the exterior where there was a bit of a waterfall coming down from the second floor, as you see here, if I push in there, that's where the water came from. But at this stage, we've heard no reports of injuries, Sandra.
All right, well, that's certainly good news. And overall, we are hearing, in fact, that there are no significant injuries to report or significant damage. So far, of course, the assessment period is underway. And anytime this kind of earthquake happens, especially in a very populated area such as this one that struck at 12:20 right near Highland Park, a 4.4, certainly LAPD, LA Fire, they're taking a stance in terms of their earthquake preparedness mode and what they do in the aftermath of an earthquake. They definitely take out their rigs, assess the neighborhoods, communities, are fast to respond to any type of call. So far, that is what they are doing right now in terms of the situation. I see all these people, Justin. What's going on?
Yeah, just jump in if I may. I didn't see these people. Actually, I imagine these people are probably employees or workers from the building, and they've gone to their evacuation point. I didn't see them over here. So this must be their evacuation point. It appears that if they are the workers, they're re-entering the building now. It's been given the all clear. Okay, guys, you can go back inside. They appear to be workers or maybe visitors to the building. So, yeah, it appears that the all okay is being given for City Hall down here in Pasadena.
As we saw those fire rigs leave, probably they turned off the water, assessed the situation, checked for structural damage, and gave the all clear for employees and visitors alike to enter in. Obviously, the caution tape is up still for areas that may be vulnerable, but again, a real wake-up call for a lot of people to reassess their own personal plans. As Bobby was mentioning, do you have enough water that you can be making sure that your family is safe and can sustain itself for a duration of time if an emergency happens? Do you have your go bag? And then a reassessment of infrastructure here in the Southland in terms of especially old historic buildings like this one we're looking at, and in terms of retrofitting our infrastructure to make sure we're safe and we're prepared for the big one. I don't know if we have Bobby still on the phone or what his location is or situation, but he did provide good insight into what the situation was like when that quake shook his area, very close to the epicenter there. It was a strong jolt, he said, a couple of them. And then, of course, much like many of us, it was the wait and see. What do we do? How do we respond? And it's certainly, again, a good reminder to have a plan in place and know what to do when the big one hits. So clearly right now we're seeing from Skyfox, and Justin and Mike up in Skyfox showing the entranceway of Pasadena City Hall, showing the workers returning there after that water leak. Justin, you're saying that kind of things are returning back to normal in that area.
Yeah, Sandra, it looks like more people here are coming back in. I assume, as I said, these are the workers. It would have been quite a frightening experience. Imagine an alarm went off, and being in an older building, you think yourself, geez, I better get out. And these people have done the right thing, evacuated to their assembly point, and just indication that somebody's done a thorough review of the building and made it deemed that it's safe to go back inside. Bit of an interruption to your day, but obviously better to be safe than sorry. It appears that by the way the people here are being greeted, that they must be possibly maintenance workers or managers of the building. They seem to be the ones that are in control, telling people that it's okay to come back in. And you know, estimated, it obviously look like there's 100 people or so who evacuated, just the top of the head counts. And but certainly a nice day out here in Pasadena. And again, very lucky and fortunate, Sandra, as we always know, that the earthquake wasn't larger, and that we have no reports of injuries outside of that person possibly stuck in the elevator. And I've got to agree with you. It's a reminder that you really need to think of your own personal plan, and even how you may contact your loved ones if they're at work, or maybe have a rendezvous point where you may catch up if in the event that there is what we refer to as the big one.
Yeah, definitely. And it's interesting to hear the disparity between people. Some people did get that emergency alert saying that the shaking is going to start, and then a lot of people didn't get that. So unprepared and unclear about that in terms of who's getting these alerts and why some were triggered, why some weren't. We do have good news, though, into the newsroom. Metro saying that they have resumed normal service following an earlier system-wide inspection after that earthquake that hit at 12:20, and they are reporting no damage or injuries. So that's certainly good news, and the train service will resume to normal service after slowing down when they were checking for damage. So that's certainly something to be encouraged about. And according to Dr. Lucy Jones, you know, we always try to predict when anything happens like this. Does this mean the big one's coming? What does this mean? August 6th, we felt something in Bakersfield. Is it something to do with that? You know, we're always trying to find links here and kind of foretell the future. But again, Dr. Lucy Jones saying that there is a whole system of faults that go from Puente Hills to Elysian Park to the Santa Monica Mountains, and this quake is part of that system, but perhaps they'll never know which exact fault this quake came from. So clearly it's really hard to link together or kind of predict the future in terms of when the big one's coming. We just know it will at some point, but we can't say this is linked to another earthquake or that something big is coming in the future. So certainly, you know, there's a team of experts trying to figure all that out. But what we can do and what we are urged to do by experts is to just be ready. As Justin, you were mentioning, Bobby D earlier as well, just have a plan, have your go bag, and have the necessary resources in place to make sure you and your family members, your loved ones, are ready in case and if and when the big one happens. We don't know when that will be. So again, we're taking a live look outside Pasadena City Hall, where workers are kind of talking over their experiences, perhaps, about where they were when they felt the big one that shook at 12:20. We'll say the big one for today at 4.4. But hopefully, yeah, all indications do show that no excessive damage or injuries have been reported so far. We do see some emergency personnel still there, Justin.
Yes, Sandra, this is a firefighter from the Pasadena Fire. He seems to be communicating with the building managers. I think he's just articulating to them that they've done a review and it appears that everything seems okay. As I said before, we saw the 2 engine trucks leave, so that would indicate that there is no immediate danger here, and that the workers that did take refuge to their emergency rendezvous points have now re-entered the building. So unclear what this firefighter is doing. No doubt maybe just assisting them if the managers of the building need help with any drainage. Obviously the firefighters have pumps that can get rid of water very quickly, and it'll be very interesting to see what type of damage was occurred to this historical building. It is a beautiful building, as you said, Sandra, and it's well known. A lot of visitors come here and look. And anyone just joining us, the damage, or we believe the pipe was broken somewhere here on the 2nd or 3rd floor, and water was leaking out onto this veranda and then down almost cascading like a waterfall down here into the front of the building. Sandra?
And just curious, Justin, were you flying at the time of the earthquake at 12:20?
No, I was actually back at our base in Van Nuys on the couch, listening to the scanner, and then I think, like everyone that lives in Los Angeles long enough, you feel that feeling, and I've got to admit, I just ran straight outside. That's my go-to thing. I was here during the '94 quake and woken up by that, and it felt like a freight train coming past my bed. So that's the way I handle it. But it's great news to see more people weren't injured. No one was injured here today, Sandra.
Absolutely, a very different scene today, but certainly a reminder of things in the past and perhaps what's going to happen in the future. But thank you so much, Justin. For now, let's bring in Lisa Dadarian, the spokesperson for Pasadena. You have seen a lot, Lisa, of what's going on in terms of the impact of this earthquake, this 4.4. Tell us what's happening in Pasadena.
Well, thankfully, things are settling down now. We did have one person stuck in an elevator. They were quickly removed, in addition to a water pipe that burst in front of City Hall, producing significant amount of water due to the shaking. It's our first day of school for our school district, so we want to ensure that that both the parents are talking to kids about drop, cover, hold on during an earthquake, and that you discuss your communications plan, knowing that this could be the precursor to a larger quake, and or there will be aftershocks.
Right, that's for sure. And we're seeing some dramatic scenes from Pasadena City Hall with that water break. Could you tell us a little bit about that? And thankfully, the person was able to get out of the elevator.
The fire department assisted in getting him out of the elevator, yes. It is a historic building, but it was retrofitted to earthquake standards several years back, so it's on rollers. So, we did assess all the districts, and we did ensure that there's no damage yet.
But in terms of the water break at City Hall, do we know more information about that? What exactly happened?
From the shaking, it caused the pipe to burst.
Okay, and I could see they turned off the water because we are overhead with Skyfox showing that. And it looks like the workers are able to go back into City Hall. And in terms of the first day of school, yeah, quite an eventful first day of school for a lot of kids. Hopefully there have been no reports of any kind of emergency situations at any of the campuses there.
Correct, and we hope it stays that way. And I'm going to jump off now, but...
All right, thank you so much, Lisa. I know it's a very busy day for you and the rest of the staff in Pasadena, clearly dealing with some issues because of the earthquake, but clearly all emergency personnel and firefighters responding to this and ready to respond to anyone in need. And speaking of those emergency alerts some people received on the phone, you know what? Animals really are sensitive to anything like this happening. Let's show you this video of one dog who had this response to the quake. So clearly, much like us, animals feel the shaking, certainly alerted, woke up right there. And sometimes they can be a precursor to the shaking. Other times they're just like us. They feel the jolt and are jolted awake and alert. So again, a constant reminder to be ready not only for yourself, your family members, your loved ones, but also if you do have any pets, to make sure you're stocked up and ready with that go bag, with the resources needed to make sure that you can provide for your family and also your pets. All right, let's go back up to Justin and Sky Fox with the latest on what's happening there. We just heard from Lisa, the spokesperson for Pasadena, saying that there was in fact someone trapped in the elevator inside Pasadena City Hall, but firefighters were able to get to that person and make sure that they were safe.
Yes, that's great news, Sandra. Something interesting too that Lisa said was that the building is on rollers, so that no doubt limited any possible damage. And it's nice that a historical building like this has been retrofitted. At least then workers have the confidence working in there that they know that they're pretty safe, and also that the building is protected. And if I zoom in here, people may remember this building. If you've the historical fountain there was very popular for photographs. And if I just pull out wide again, just to remind you, this is the area at the front here where there seemed to be the broken pipe, and it's unclear whether it was on the wall or where it was, but it certainly has caused some damage there. The water obviously has dried now. We have a lot of looky-loo people coming out to see. And it's obviously good news, Sandra, that people are just coming here to see water drying on the pavement and nothing more serious than that.
That's right, and we're hearing from Dr. Lucy Jones, who is giving us a little bit more insight in terms of the retrofitting on buildings. You're talking about this being on rollers. In fact, Pasadena has enacted mandatory retrofit for first-story buildings, but it's not been completed yet. And in terms of what she's saying is that South Pasadena and Alhambra do not have mandatory retrofit laws. So interesting, again, a wake-up call to make sure that we're ready to go. And that includes our infrastructure, our facilities, our buildings. So far, Highland Park, as we know, is part of Los Angeles, and LA City is almost finished enacting those retrofits. So clearly, this is something that's going to be an ongoing basis for building inspectors and for retrofitters to make sure that all our buildings and infrastructure is ready to go and is safe in terms of when the big one hits. And clearly, today was a good reminder and a good indicator that there needs to be more work done to make sure that we're ready. As you zoom in on this employee who has exited Pasadena City Hall right there, and it definitely shows that more needs to be done. Of course, the response to this has been great because they were in fact able to take care of that broken water pipe, Justin, as you have been mentioning, and the fact that the employees knew what to do. They exited the building. They made sure everything was okay before they got the all clear to go back inside.
Yes, it was quite surprising, Sandra, to see how many employees there were inside the building there taking refuge a good quarter mile away across the street there in the park while the Pasadena firefighters did their search or review of the building. Obviously, the firefighters saw them going on that floor where the water was leaking there. They were able to help pump that water away. And I should mention, like, although we were focusing here on Pasadena, when we were flying from Van Nuys, we were filming several LA City fire helicopters who were actually doing orbital searches around the city to ensure whether they could see any damage. And as we know, firefighters in the LA City area were doing what they call a windshield inspection. So literally just driving around the streets to ensure that everyone in the public, all the buildings appeared to be safe, and if anybody needed help, they could get it. So it's, again, I keep saying it, it's great to see that the only damage we've got here today is a broken water main and some water on an outside pavement, because earthquakes are very scary things, and just another reason, as we keep saying, to make sure you have your go bag, or at least some sort of way of communicating your friends or your family if they do need assistance. And it actually looks like I saw this work truck pull up. I wouldn't be surprised if this guy here is the guy who's tasked with trying to fix that water main. Sandra?
Yeah, definitely a lot of work left to do in terms of making sure everything is double checked and the infrastructure is solid and safe right there. And also in the surrounding area, this earthquake hit at 12:20, so over an hour ago. A lot of people felt it, not only in the LA area, Highland Park obviously being the center of it all, but clearly we are getting reports from Orange County and Riverside. And the big question to Dr. Lucy Jones, this was, you know, a 4.4 magnitude earthquake. But for a lot of people, it felt much bigger in terms of duration, in terms of how it felt. Some people reporting it felt like 2 jolts. For us here in the West LA newsroom of Fox 11, it certainly lasted for longer than any other recent earthquake we've felt in quite some time. And it was rolling in nature with a few jolts interspersed there. We saw some lights swaying, and clearly the reason why she said it did feel more impactful than a 4.4 is because it hit in such a populated area. Now, if you remember August 6th, there was a 5.2 magnitude east of Bakersfield. Not a lot of people felt it. But let's bring in our next guest who can talk a little bit about how they felt the earthquake just over an hour ago.
Hello, this is
Margaret Stewart, I believe.
Fire Department.
We do, yes. Thank you so much for joining us on this very busy day. I know fire crews are out responding to any calls. What is the situation you're hearing out there?
So, fortunately, we've had no reports of infrastructure damage in the city of LA. We've concluded we're nearing conclusion of earthquake mode, where all 106 of our fire stations report their damage assessment of their district, so they'll drive a pre-designated route, and that goes all the way up the chain of command to the concluding report that covers the entire city that will identify any damage to critical infrastructure and areas of concern in their districts. That's by land, by our marine units in the ocean, as well as our air ops. So it covers the whole city. And as I mentioned, fortunately, we've had no reports of any significant damage. While individuals, may have had things fall off their shelves or in stores, the actual infrastructure of the city, we don't have any damage.
That is certainly some good news, Margaret. We like to hear for sure. Yeah. In terms of just personally speaking, and maybe you were with some fire crews out there, when you felt it happen at 12:20, I mean, did you feel it, and what did you think in terms of how severe it felt?
We certainly did. In our building here at Metropolitan Fire Communications in downtown, we're built on rollers for earthquake resiliency, so we feel it even stronger. So it's a little hard for us to always immediately tell what the magnitude is, but it was certainly felt, which was what immediately triggered our earthquake mode protocol. And hopefully, with this being felt widespread but escaping damage, this will be a good reminder for people to ensure they are prepared, to know to drop, cover, and hold on under sturdy furniture or an interior wall if they're inside. And also to be disaster ready. If they go to our website, lefd.org, and click on the safety tab, they can go to the bottom and download an emergency preparedness guide, which takes them through the steps, not just for earthquake, but for all potential disasters. How to have an escape plan, how to shut off your utilities. It's a really important document that you can download for free and have it as a resource for you, your family, your workplace, your school.
Yeah, absolutely. A good reminder. I mean, I think we're all jolted into that reminder this afternoon because certainly this was felt in a wide-ranging area. Thank you so much, Margaret Stewart from the LA City Fire Department. A good reminder there. Again, go to lafd.org, go to their safety tab to get a full list of the resources you need to make sure you are ready for the big one in terms of resources you need for your family, a safety plan, in terms of where to meet, perhaps perhaps, a rendezvous, an escape route, all the things that you should have in place before any type of an emergency. But she did say there was no significant damage, which is certainly some good news. All 106 fire stations reporting after the earthquake mode. That whole process is nearing conclusion, so that should be done shortly. But again, all those fire stations reporting that there's no significant damage because of this in terms of impacting infrastructure. So that's certainly the news that we want to hear when we feel something like this. All right, let's go to Justin. What are you looking at here on the second or third story of Pasadena City Hall right now? You're looking for any other leaks or cracks?
Yes, that's right, Sandra. I thought I'd just try to have a bit of a look around the building and see whether there's workers to give us some sort of indication where this actually, this water pipe may have broken. So I'm looking at the third floor here. There seems to be an atrium there. You can see the glass atrium. And there does appear to be workers on this floor here through the arches there. You can see them just in the shadows. So I'm just trying to look around to give us a little bit more information about what happened here and obviously what may have been damaged. But at an old building like this, tile floors, fingers crossed that there's no major damage and that the water can just dry up and they'll be able to put a few vacuums and fans in there and fix the pipe and everything will be good. But again, just looking around here to see whether we can see any indication of workers. We do know I've seen several people that appear to be managers of the building walking around on their cell phones with clipboards, and no doubt they're trying to work out how to repair this pipe. Sandra?
As you look from Skyfox up overhead, Pasadena City Hall, we do have a crew down below giving us a ground perspective. Photojournalist Sam Dubin on the phone with us now. Where are you and how did you feel?
So I'm here with Christine, and she's going to tell me, she was right here in Pasadena, she's going to tell me what she felt.
Oh, it was just a huge jolt to the house. It was quick, but super scary.
Yeah, it felt like a couple of seconds, maybe a 3-second, a big jolt, and then maybe 2 to 3 seconds of little after jolting, and yeah.
I mean, was it scary? Was it your first earthquake?
It wasn't scary. No. I've been through plenty of earthquakes here, but best shake in a little while.
It felt a lot closer and stronger than usual for sure.
Did it feel more than a 4.4?
Yeah, I mean, just because it was so close, yeah. It was scary.
Sandra Endo, our anchor, is asking, did it feel more than a 4.4?
I wouldn't have guessed. I would have thought it was bigger.
Yeah, I would have guessed bigger, yeah.
Did you guys come out here to see the damage because you heard about what was going on here?
I saw the helicopters up here and thought something might be going on, so decided to come live on scene.
Do you guys think you're prepared when the big one strikes? We're talking about earthquake preparedness?
Not at all. Nope. No, I could definitely be more prepared.
Good reminder?
Good reminder, absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
All right, thank you guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, definitely a good reminder, and it's so funny because here in LA we are used to earthquakes, little shakers, tremors like we've been feeling, and yet a lot of people are not prepared with those go bags, with the resources they needed, the supplies. So again, download that safety list at lafd.org to make sure that you, your loved ones are protected, are safe, have the necessary supplies needed in case something happens. But again, we are so used to these little shakes and tremors that oftentimes we don't get prepared, and we definitely do need to be ready. All right, thank you, Sam Dubin, for that. Again, he is just on the ground right there in front of the Pasadena City Hall. Justin up in Skyfox overhead, where things seem to be resuming to normal because employees have gone back in, and that water main break has been shut off. So certainly the inspections will continue. Again, LAFD saying that there's no significant damage after their earthquake protocol has resumed. 106 fire stations checking in, checking their communities, making sure that everything is okay in terms of infrastructure. Let's go back out to Sam Dubin in front of Pasadena City Hall. Sam.
So where were you when it happened?
Sitting on that bench.
So you were right here?
Yeah.
So what did it feel like?
Nothing.
No, you barely felt it?
I barely felt it. And it was very small. It was very short as well. Yeah, I know. I was in an earthquake once. I was sleeping out at the couch on my grandparents, visiting my grandparents. Knocked me off the couch and broke my grandma's coffee table.
So this was very minor.
Oh, this is minor. 4.7, that's nothing.
So you've been through bigger.
Oh, yeah.
And do you think you're prepared for when the big one strikes?
They keep saying, they've been saying that for 100 years. It still has yet to happen, so.
It's a good reminder today to be prepared.
That was nothing. It didn't feel like anything.
Thank you, Scott.
All right.
It's all about perspective right there. Yeah, it depends if you felt a big one before, if you lived through 94 perhaps, or another type of earthquake, tsunami even. Yeah, it's all about perspective in terms of if that felt big or not, or it comes as a surprise to you. So certainly a lot of different vantage points and viewpoints out there where Sam is talking to people right near the epicenter where this happened, a 4.4 again hitting near Highland Park at 12:20. This afternoon, and we are looking at a live picture from Skyfox overhead. And Justin, you are checking out another location.
Yes, that's correct, Sandra. We're just making our way between all the high schools in the Pasadena area here, just to try and see. We heard the reports that possibly the Pasadena High School was being evacuated. So we're making our way out there. Again, this could just be a precaution, not trying to alarm anybody, but we'll make our way out there. We're at 2 minutes away or so. Maybe I'll just give an idea of maybe it could just be a precaution if they are asking the students to go home early today. We don't really know at this stage. But again, it's a good reminder, Sandra, to have an evacuation point or
and
somewhere
Pasadena,
you want to stand.
Go ahead, Justin.
Yes, it's saying just a good opportunity to remind people to have an evacuation point and somewhere to rendezvous, somewhere safe if they do go through some type of emergency. Sandra?
Absolutely, and you know, there's a lot of emergency responses in place at schools, and that's, you know, what a lot of people think is the safest place, especially for families, for parents, making sure their schools are safe and protective. We do know that Pasadena schools do not go back in session until next week, but clearly staff, teachers, counselors are on campus today, and that's what we're hearing in terms of possible evacuations taking place at some of these campuses. Again, students not there yet. That'll be taking place next week, but all the personnel that have been called back to school on campus to prepare for the first day of school, those are the employees that may have been evacuated because of this earthquake. Let's go back to Sam Dubin now, who has more reaction from outside of Pasadena City Hall.
Okay, I have Darlene here, who was inside City Hall at the time of the earthquake. Tell me what happened.
Yes, I was actually talking to several residents, and it was a huge jolt. And everyone sort of just stood still to see exactly what was going on. And then there was another little quick jolt, and so we left the building. I'm the floor monitor in the city manager and mayor's office, so I had to make sure everyone was out. So we exited the building and went to the places we were supposed to.
I'm assuming you guys have done drills like this before.
We've done many drills, so we're definitely prepared.
And there was a water main leak, I understand. Did that affect your office?
No, it did not so far. The water leak came, I think it's above the 3rd floor. So it started after we had came out of the building.
And one person was trapped in an elevator, we understand. Did you know that person?
Yes, I did. That's Debbie. And she was trapped in there, but she got out safely from our wonderful firemen who are used to coming to that elevator if needed.
And did you talk to her? Was she scared? What was going through her mind?
No, I just saw her do a high five and she went across the street. So scary moments, but you get over it.
What was going through your mind when the earthquake happened?
You know, at that time, actually, I was talking to a resident and she was having several problems, and my key thing to go to is let's prayer, because God does mysterious things. And as we were praying, the jolt hit. So, you know what? Nothing, you know. I always feel like I'm in good hands.
So it's a good reminder when the big one actually strikes to be prepared.
Always, always. Stay prepared. That's the motto. Stay prepared. You never know when.
What was the sense of the other employees, with you? It was, it's business hours. So what were they doing? What were they feeling?
You know what? As far as I know, everyone just felt the jolt and they knew they had to exit. You know, we knew what we had to do and everyone adhered to what was done.
Okay, great. Well, I'm glad you're safe and thanks for talking to us.
Thank you so much. You have a good day.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, Sam Dubin, thank you so much for that recount from the city worker there who was inside Pasadena City Hall when that jolt happened at 12:20 this afternoon. Let's take a look at new video coming into our newsroom right now of the moment it happened and struck Highland Park. Take a look.
Georgie? Yeah, that was a big one.
Well, there you see there inside a residence, the shaking, the jolt. Now let's go live to the Caltech press conference where we're hearing from experts on about this quake.
That was in the Highland Park region of Los Angeles, close to South Pasadena. It's not clear which fault it was on. There's complicated faulting in that area. It was widely felt. There were 15,000 reports that came in from the Did You Feel It system and counting. Shake Alert was activated. I don't have the details on that performance yet. There's going to be a lot of data to look at. There were a couple of events in this immediate area going back to June. On just disappeared. I think it was June 2nd. There was a magnitude 3.4 in a very similar location that was felt. This one is bigger. There, at magnitude 4.4, we expect aftershocks. They may be a few that are big enough to be felt. Any earthquake in California, there's about a 1 in 20 chance of something bigger happening within the next few days. If something bigger were to happen, it would likely be only slightly bigger than the 4.4.
Thank you, Sue. And then we can get to some of these questions. We have Ron Lynn from the LA Times asking, what is the maximum intensity of the felt shaking of this earthquake? The shake map says 4.5. Does that mean the maximum intensity felt of shaking is level 4 or light shaking or level 5 moderate shaking?
Yeah, that's a good question, and it's confusing because we're talking about the intensity scale, which is separate from the magnitude. The magnitude was 4.4, but the shaking intensity is how strong it was in any location, and I know some folks are very familiar with that. But we do get, let me just check real fast. It was about 15,000 reports. Now it's up to 20,000. And they're still coming in of people who fill out a questionnaire. The strongest shaking reports that have come in so far are what we call intensity 5. It's just barely strong enough to maybe knock a few small objects off of desks, that kind of shaking. It's not strong enough to cause damage. But so the shaking that was experienced was at worst strong enough to knock a few things off of shelves.
Thank you for that answer. We have a question from Eric Brenner from Breaking Los Angeles News, who says, everyone is talking right now about the 5% chance of a larger earthquake occurring. Statistically speaking, has the 5% now gone up? How big is that 5% at this moment? We have a few questions here. And the last part of his question is, why did people, particularly in Studio City and East Hollywood, feel it so strongly? So you can answer that in whatever order makes sense to you.
Yeah, so that foreshock probability, it's always around 1 in 20. The odds are highest right after the earthquake happens. So the more time goes by without something happening, that number drops. So it's actually lower than it was, let's see, an hour and a half ago, for what that's worth. There should be some numbers put out by now, an operational aftershock forecast. I have not seen that yet. But it's so 5%, it's 1 in 20, which means it won't happen. But that's the odds have gone up from what they were 2 hours ago. So it's a good time for people to be on their toes and to think about preparedness and what they would want to do, if a bigger earthquake strikes. What would you wish you had done before? And so let's see, the other question was the pattern of shaking. That always depends on a couple things. First of all, location, but also which way does the fault break? And if it breaks and is coming at you, you can get a little bit stronger shaking because of that, like a Doppler effect. if you're sitting on a certain kind of rock that shakes more, you can get more shaking there. That I have seen, the strongest shaking is very close to the epicenter, and then just a little bit to the southwest. And that possibly could reflect the way the fault broke, but we have to look at the data.
All right, and then we have one last question from Jacob Margolis from KPCC LAist, who asks if there's any updated fault information. I assume that this do we know yet, Sue, which fault this was on?
Yeah, no, we don't. And as Lucy Jones said, there are a number of mapped faults that are nearby that it could have been on. At 4.4, it's small enough that it easily could have been a secondary fault associated with a larger fault zone. So that's another thing that people are going to have to be looking at.
All right, and then somewhat related to that, Ron Lynn from the Times asks if this was related to a pair of smaller quakes in El Sereno some weeks ago. Do we have any information of whether this is again about which fault it was? But we don't know the answer to that. But do we know, is this related to the quakes from a few weeks ago?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I've been looking into that. There were a pair. One was 3.4 on June 2nd. I felt that at my house. So it was pretty widely felt for 3.4. There was another 3-ish event around the same time. It's right in the same area. So those earthquakes, they're definitely related. They're all close enough in time and space. They don't quite fit the conventional foreshock, main shock, aftershock mold. Maybe you could think of those 3.4s as foreshocks. Sometimes earthquakes are related in ways that don't quite fit the standard statistical mold. But yeah, they were close enough in time and space that there pretty clearly is an association. And that's something, the distribution of these small events, including the aftershocks, are one of the bits of information that will help us figure out what fault it was on.
All right, looks like we don't have any additional questions right now, so I'd like to reiterate for people who are just joining us, this is the Caltech Seismological Laboratory Virtual Earthquake Press Conference. We are here today with Sue Huff from the USGS and Gabrielle Tepp from Caltech. If you have questions for them and you're a member of the news media, please post your questions using the Q&A function at the bottom of the screen, and we will answer the questions.
All right, we're listening to a live press conference from Caltech talking about when or where this earthquake originated from, which fault. They're clearly trying to look into that, whether it was a foreshock, main shock, aftershock, how these earthquakes we've been experiencing could be perhaps intertwined. That's something that scientists and geologists are going to be looking into and determining for quite some time. For right now, though, let's go back to Sam Dubin, who's live outside Pasadena City Hall with someone else who felt this wide-ranging impact of this earthquake. Sam.
Yes, Sandra, I'm here with Javier, and he felt it. He said it felt like the rock cobbler. So let's talk to Javier right now. What did it feel like?
It felt like a shaking, up and down, side to side jolt.
Were you scared?
Actually, I was asleep. It woke me up. I actually thought I was dreaming, but once I woke up, I noticed it was real. So I jumped up and started running, and I felt like I thought I was really gonna I thought it was actually the big one when I noticed there was an earthquake.
And why did you come here? It's because you said you were watching the news, right?
Yeah, I was watching the news. I usually like to get educated about this kind of stuff, and so I went on YouTube and I looked it up, and I noticed that there was a lot of stuff going on here at City Hall, so I wanted to check it out for myself.
And are you prepared for when the big one really strikes? Obviously today you said you felt like it was the big one, but it wasn't. Well, what do you think?
Well, I mean, it felt like it was because I was like, I got caught. It caught me off guard. I was asleep, so I don't think anybody's really prepared. I mean, I wasn't prepared. I felt like we have to get prepared, but I don't think anybody's really prepared. Do
you have an earthquake kit at home with food and water and all that?
I actually have like a first aid kit, but it's not really gonna do anything. I don't really have any water prepared or anything, so
tonight are you going to go to the hardware or grocery store and get some supplies, you think?
I think I should. I think that should be my next priority.
Scary, huh? But it's just a good reminder that we're in earthquake territory, huh?
Oh yeah, man. This is like ground zero. You know, we have like many, like, I would say hundreds of faults around us. You know, not really hundreds, but you know, I would say about hundreds.
Totally. Thank you, Javier. Appreciate your time today.
Oh, thank you, man.
And here's Sandra. You can see, I'll show you guys really quick. They do have some caution tape around here. I don't know if it's unstable or not. And then they are blocking off this area over here. I'll show you guys.
All right, getting a ground perspective from Sam Dubin there, photojournalist on the scene outside of Pasadena City Hall. We were looking at aerial views earlier from Skyfox showing this caution tape, all because of the water pipe that broke on the third story of that historic building that has, in fact, been retrofitted. It's on rollers now, but clearly an impact of a 4.4 magnitude earthquake can do some damage still, and that's why we saw fire crews responding to that water break earlier after the initial shaking. And it was interesting to hear Caltech officials saying that this was a 4.4 magnitude earthquake, obviously we know, and so far 20,000 reports of people feeling this in terms of the Did You Feel It app were reported. So the shaking intensity, they say, is about a level 5, which means small items, objects maybe fell off of desks or walls, like picture frames. So that is what they say was the shaking intensity. But the fact that 20,000 reports of people saying they felt it is a widespread area. And Dr. Lucy Jones saying that the impact may have felt even more severe just because this, in fact, did happen in a well-populated area, the epicenter being right around Highland Park. Clearly, when we talk about a lot of these earthquakes, they happen in a less densely populated area. So perhaps not the biggest impact as we felt today. So clearly this is a good reminder, as so many people have been saying, that they are not ready for the big one. They don't have their go bags ready and they don't have a plan in place. So to use this as a reminder to go to lafd.org, go down the safety tabs. There is a complete listing, according to LA City fire officials, of the things you need, the resources you need to make sure you are prepared for any emergency, including the big one. That means resources for yourself, your family members, your loved ones, your pets. That includes a lot of water and everything you need to make sure that you can respond to an emergency, perhaps such as this, including having an evacuation route, a plan, where to rendezvous after something like this happens. So this is something we definitely need to make sure we emphasize and prioritize, as so many of those residents, as you heard from right there, saying they don't have a plan yet and they don't have those go bags ready. So according to LA Fire Department officials, they have concluded their earthquake check. 106 fire stations reporting no significant damage because of this. We're also happy to report no significant injuries because of this 4.4 magnitude earthquake that hit at 12:20 this afternoon, with the epicenter being near Highland Park. Of course, we're going to have a full recap of what exactly happened, including showing you and explaining to you what happened earlier right here at Pasadena City Hall with that water pipe breakage. We'll have full coverage later this evening on Fox 11. Thanks for being with us on this breaking news.